come around, please.
Morning. My name is Deborah. I just want to get some information.
Good morning. I am Odessa Duncan, Senior Environmental Officer. How may I assist you today?
Tell me something. They got this man next door by me breaking on this big building, and it's bare asbestos in the roof. I could remember hearing on your TV program that asbestos is dangerous to human health and the environment.
This is correct. The Environmental Protection Act states that any person or facility that is storing, treating, transporting, and or disposing of hazardous waste material must be authorized by the EPA to do so.
Oh, but it's now I'm really hearing about this hazardous waste thing. Tell me something more.
Hazardous waste are waste material with properties that are dangerous or capable of having a harmful effect on human health and the environment, including things like paint, fertilizers, and pesticides, waste oil, and asbestos. These things have the potential to cause cancer, birth defects, kidney failure, and reproductive impairment, with children being at the highest risk. The environmental authorization in this case gives the legal right to transport, store, and dispose of this material in accordance with the EPA Act Chapter 2005 Laws of Guyana. Now, this ensures you and your operation and your process is safe for the environment and human health.
So you mean to tell me that all them leftover Christmas paint that I got on in my kitchen sink, I need authorization from EPA to get rid of it?
No, Miss Deborah. These items, once used for household purposes, does not require environmental authorization from the EPA. However, you should still take necessary steps to ensure that these materials are stored and disposed of in an environmentally safe manner.
Thank you so much for the information. I go in and tell him that he needs an environmental authorization. Thank you.
Hello Guyana, and welcome to another episode of The Environment Matters. I'm your moderator, LaDonna Kisud, an Environmental Officer at the Environmental Protection Agency. So I hope you're all keeping safe given the COVID-19 pandemic and also staying healthy. So on our last episode, we had a few of my colleagues from the EPA and they were talking to you about biodiversity. So today we want to continue that talk. However, we're looking at it from a different angle. So today we're talking about sustainable tourism and biodiversity. And to do that, I have two very special guests and also some colleagues of mine. So today we're going to be having Ms. Carla James, the Director for the Guyana Tourism Authority, and Mr. Mitra Ramkumar, President of the Tourism Hospitality Association of Guyana. I got that right. So welcome to you both. And thank you for being here in all that's happening. I know you guys are extremely busy, but we do thank you for sitting down with us and having this little chat. So before we get anywhere, I want both of you to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what your organizations they do and what more so are your functions and how you aid in the development of Guyana. So we can start with you, Carla.
Sure. Madonna, thank you so much for inviting us. I'm very pleased to be here to have this conversation with you and your viewers. Yes, I'm from the Guyana Tourism Authority, is a semi-autonomous government agency that is responsible for developing and promoting sustainable tourism. And we do that in collaboration with sister agencies and private sector partners, including the Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana, to maximize the local economic benefits of tourism and also focusing on improving the experience for travelers. In terms of our mandate, we are responsible for product development and also licensing of businesses, basically trying to benchmark them against safety, best practices, And of course, training and capacity building, 'cause that's important in delivering quality service. We also do research and marketing, basically. So those are our main responsibilities.
Great, thank you. So, Mitra.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. So, the Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana is the tourism private sector. And so, we believe where there's unity, there's strength. So, all the private sector operatives, the people that are in the tourism and hospitality sector in Guyana, most of them are members of the association. And so, we form a lobby group. The tag was formed in 1992, and we have been going from strength to strength. We have restaurants on board, we have airlines on board, and so it's a wide cross section of travel, tourism, hospitality, entertainment that falls within tag. I am happy to represent the association, and we have had several engagements with multi-stakeholders, including government and agencies such as yours, and they have all been very productive. And so, it ties in to, again, where there's unity, there's strength, and we all need to work together to, while we have our agenda, if we are able to collaborate, then we get a lot more done with a lot less resources.
Great. I know some people might be thinking, okay, so GTA, TAG, they're all involved in tourism and hospitality, sustainable management. But would you like to tell us like some of the activities that you guys are really involved in? I know the most famous, and a lot of people are going to be like, oh, is Guyana Restaurant Week. Yes. So outside of that, I know we've talked before about some of the things that you guys do as different organizations, outside of all the work, but in terms of activities that you're known for.
Well, I could start, if I may, Carla.
Yeah.
I've seen that you mentioned Guyana Restaurant
Yeah.
because we actually take the lead in Guyana Restaurant, of course supported by the GTA. But Guyana Restaurant Week is actually supposed to be happening in June, but of course it's not going to be happening. So we said we'll postpone it based on when we are able to ensure, because our main focus is to ensure that our employees are safe, and of course the patrons, people that will come and visit the restaurant. So we want to ensure that we have it down to a science, and that so safety is the number one priority. So we want to say to people, look forward to it. It's coming again, but let us give this thing some time, because we don't want to open ourselves up and then we lose lives. That's the last thing that we would want. So we have had a packed, planned year for 2020. We were looking forward to an exciting year with the amount of achievements that we would have had over the past year, especially in 2019, amount of awards that we would have won as a destination. Carla can talk more about that. But the tourism and hospitality sector has really moved the pace, and it has been growing rapidly. I know there was a lot of talk about oil and gas for Guyana, but what I believe people need to see is that the tourism and hospitality industry actually meshes well with the oil and gas industry, in that you have a lot of workers, a lot of expats in country who want to do something, want to go out on a weekend, want to go on a day tour, want to go out to restaurants and places of entertainment. And so these two sectors mesh well. They complement each other. And this is not unique to Guyana. It has happened in many other destinations. You look at the Emirates in Dubai, and what they have done. They have built a tourism industry in a desert, but it was done from oil resources, and it was done because they had a huge amount of people going to that place to work anyway. And so it made sense, and what they did is catapulted. They spent a lot of money in marketing and promotion and product development and so on. And so this is where we see that Guyana should have been going. I know we are a bit on a standstill. So we say we had the webinar, or the what did we call it?
The
Did she call it?
Zoominar.
The Zoominar.
Yeah.
That says it's a lockdown but not shut down.
Yeah.
So we are going to get there. It's going to take some time. I just give you that perspective to show where we were going, where we were heading in the industry. And the other point that I want to make to you is that the oil and gas industry really targets highly skilled professionals, and a lot of it we don't have in Guyana. So a lot of it comes in. It's highly capital. Now the good thing with the tourism sector is that you can start from a one man. You can start by being a tour guide. You can start by being a boarder, and then you move up the chain. So this is how the industries complement each other. It doesn't require a huge amount of investment upfront, but it can build, and you can use that as a stepping stone to get to where you want to be. So this is where we were heading. We had a lot of activities planned for this year. So I'm sure Carla could share more of that with you.
Well, I think from the GTA's point, I guess, in keeping with our mandate, a lot of events that we actually host are not really for entertainment per se. It's more focused on educating our locals and visitors on our products and services and businesses that offer these amazing experiences. So I think you'd probably be hearing more about the GTA and those businesses a lot more in November, because that's Tourism Awareness Month. So two events that I think people really look forward to, other than Restaurant Week, is a scavenger hunt that the GTA actually hosts. And it's really just to get people involved. It's a fun way to learn about the country, what makes us really unique and special. And then, of course, you get to share that with your team members, etc. The other thing for tourism awareness that we also do is where we hold a local expo, again, inviting all businesses, etc., to go out to share a little bit about their services, maybe special prices that may be happening to encourage local travel. So our programs have really been focused on education, educating the public on travel and tourism, basically.
Okay, great. So they have been busy. I mean, given all that's happened, there's still a lot to look forward to, not only just from you guys, but generally in the tourism sector and in collaboration with other sister agencies. Now, I know, Guyana has a thriving tourism sector, that's what. And given all the changes that we've gone through and all that's really happening with oil and gas and the influx of visitors that we were having, how would you say that all of this would have contributed to Guyana's development, not only as a country, but also with regards to our economic state?
Well, the travel and tourism industry in itself, I think, with the help of the Bureau of Statistics, through their visitor exit motivation survey, was able to establish what the average visitor expenditure is, and which is really great, because we have been working for years, and I think based on advocacy from THAG as well, in trying to really determine what is tourism contribution to the GDP. And while we don't have that exact figure, we do use the visitor expenditure average, which is on par with the international average of $1,100 US, which works out roughly to $212,000 per visitor. In 2019, we received just over 314,000 visitors for that year. What that meant is, based on that visitor expenditure alone, an average of 69 billion Ghana dollars was plugged into the economy. So that alone puts tourism as the second largest income industry that is adding to the economy. We know that that's going to change this year with oil and gas. We're going to come to third, but that's fine. But I don't think that negates the importance of the sector. The other thing is, tourism is a labor-intensive sector. What that means, based on the recent data that we got from WTTC, that they employ over 13,000 jobs basically are created in the sector, and that's direct and indirect. So for travel and tourism, we know that it is the best way and the most sustainable way to diversify and expand the economy. So, and I think Mitra will be able to speak to some of this, but I think the good thing about the way our business is structured is if you look at how many foreign investors you really have here in terms of the tourism standpoint, it's just a few chain hotels that are here, but everyone else owns that business are Guyanese. So we know that when a visitor spends that money, there's no leakage really, or very minimal. So a lot of that money stays in country, goes to pay for those jobs, helps with infrastructure, etc. So there's just so many positive things about what tourism does for the economy. Mitra?
Yeah.
Anything?
just to add on what Carla has said, that and this has come back to my point in how the oil and gas industry complements the tourism and hospitality industry, in that the tourism and hospitality industry really is if you want, you can call it a local content industry, because the locals is what builds the industry. That is what people come to see. That is what they want to experience. They want to, they want to have a taste of your food, your culture, everything else. And so this is what makes it and give it vibrancy, and especially because Guyana is such a diverse country. On the Today Show, when the gentleman was talking about Guyana has brilliant Chinese food, so it gives you that teaser. And when you get here, it really is beautiful to have diversity in people and diversity in landscapes. You talk about biodiversity. There's so much that Guyana has to offer. And my other point on this is the oil and gas industry is not sustainable. The tourism industry is sustainable. One of the OAS programs that they have for tourism leaders have said that tourism has a triple bottom line effect. That is people, planet, and profits. In our Explore Guyana magazine, we have an article on it that explains in drill down in details to talk about what that means, and it really is that it covers those three pillars. And so I believe the tourism and hospitality industry really needs to be looked at in this broad picture. One final point on this is that when we talk about it being that local content industry, we are talking about not only the big hotels or even lodges, the prominent ones. We're talking about the market vendors. We're talking about the coconut vendors. That's what people come to experience, and so we need to look at it from that perspective.
Most definitely. So I guess I probably know the answer to this, but I just want to throw it out there. During what time of the year do you think that, or is it proven that we have an influx of persons visiting?
That's a really good question. I think in understanding our target audience or the visitors that we do receive, of those 314,000 visitors I mentioned earlier, a large part of that, maybe representing as much as 70%, are diaspora. Because of that, you would see on statistics indicating that the peak for air travel coming to Guyana are the ones where there's holidays. So Easter, the July-August period, and then Christmas, because that's diaspora. But if you're looking at the people who are coming in for the main purpose of visiting places and experiencing the products that we have to offer, then that changes a bit. So the peak for those periods is basically October to April. And that's really because that's the dry season, in a sense, because the wildlife, they tend to come out more to the riverside because the water is low, so you have a greater chance of spotting them. And then in the green season, which is actually the period that we're now moving into, it's rainy season. So visitation at the lodges is not as high. And that's really in locations like the Rupununi specifically. However, during this period, although it's low, it is usually the time that a lot of scientists and researchers, etc., that do come at this time as well, or even students. However, with COVID happening, we know that that's not going to be happening in the great way at all this year.
Yes. All right. So, how would you say that biodiversity and tourism they're linked? I know you just touched a little bit on persons coming because they're not just coming for a visit, but they want to have a tour of Guyana and be able to experience all this happening, including the coconut vendors. So, how would you link it?
I would just say it is a natural fit and maybe a match made in heaven because our biodiversity is very unique and special in Guyana. As a matter of fact, I think one of the storylines that we use to promote the destination, we call ourselves the Land of Giants. And that's because we do have a lot of giants. The harpy eagle, the largest fresh-killed waterfish, the arapaima, the Goliath-eating spider, even our lilies. So from that standpoint, it is a good fit, and it is the one of the things that people do come here for specifically. Yeah, so I think, and it is very important, and the only way that we can continue to make or keep Guyana a special place to visit is by protecting it. So yeah, anything else to add there, Mitra?
I believe it ties in well to the award that Guyana, the destination won, which is the #1 ecotourism, the best in ecotourism
Yes.
from green destinations. And so people look forward for that when they come to Guyana. I know you have a lot more questions on that, so I don't
No,
want to take the lead.
I was actually thinking, oh, that's a really good point because I'm about to ask you a little bit about that award. I know quite a few persons might not know, but Guyana in 2019 was named the #1 tourism destination in the world. So, how did we get this award? What countries did we go up against? What were what did the categories look like?
Yeah.
Come, share with us, Carla.
Well, actually, a lot of countries did submit their applications to be considered, and I think we competed with places like the Galapagos, Mexico, Peru, all our competitors basically. But I think in terms of what it was assessed on to help us to achieve that, it was really based on sustainable best practices and principles relating to destination management and marketing. So with that, I think at a national level, we are truly doing a great deal on that front. I think starting off with the GSDS that is out right now in terms of our national strategy, that really does align and put tourism at the forefront in a sector being important to develop. And with that, increased multi-stakeholder consultations, aligning with sister agencies, building the capacity of our skills locally, etc. Those are all guiding principles that has helped to secure that. And of course, what we're doing to protect our natural and cultural heritage and traditions, etc. I think at a community level, that is being done more now and in a structured way. So it really does set us up for success. And we were able to tell that story in our application that basically resulted in us winning that award. But the work is not done. I think that was last year's award, and we have to continue to do those things and do it better. And with our partners like TAG, we're really trying to do that as much as possible, not only at a national level, but working more even grassroots and with business to making sure that they're putting sustainable best practices within their business operations, etc. And it is things like that. Once we can show evidence that we are continuing to do so, we will continue to achieve more awards.
So congratulations not only to you guys, but to all Guyanese at large.
Yes, they should be very proud.
Yes, we ought to be very proud of our accomplishment, and I urge you to continue to put your best foot forward. Let's try to keep all that we have going, our people, our culture, our brilliant Chinese food, as it was rightfully said. So on that note, I actually have one other question to ask. I know we've talked a lot about persons coming into Guyana to experience or have the Guyanese experience, but what what is happening with regards to tourism for Guyanese, for persons like myself who are actually living here? How has GTA or TAG noticed that we partake, or we're going out there to experience not only just the sights and the giants, but also to experience other food from other parts of Guyana, and to have an experience of culture. How have you guys noticed that has been happening?
I believe it has been happening over the years, especially as Carla mentioned, that the big part of our market is the diaspora. And so a lot of times you find when they come back, they go with the families here, so they get a chance to go out and experience and explore. But we would really want to see that happen on a larger scale, where you have domestic tourism really taking off. And I believe if there is any opportunity that is coming out of the current crisis of the pandemic that we are facing now, is that I believe the domestic market is something that we should be put into more focus. And it is not to say that we haven't done this in the past. Guyana Restaurant Week is one of the things, one of the major focus from the Tourism and Hospitality Association, to ensure that we get locals to come out and explore, and get the beautiful ambiance, and come with the families. And so that is the target market. We also did a resort week, and so we're going to have a number of more of these. But domestic tourism has always been on the agenda for us, and but the unfortunate thing is that a lot of us are a bit foreign minded. So I think we need to, going through this crisis, we need to see the beauty that exists in our country. And I mean, for my if I can share my own personal experience, every time I go out of Georgetown and go into the hinterland, whether it be in the Pomeroon or the Rupununi or your Krama or the Berbice, you get sometimes you almost feel as though you're in another country, because of the diversity of the landscape. And you look at the mountains, and it really is breathtaking. And I believe Guyanese are doing themselves an injustice not to travel and explore, because people from all parts of the world come here. And when they finish with their experience, all that you can get from them is awe. What you have here is really a true gem.
Most definitely. So, just to share a little of my personal experience, I remember when I was growing up, my mom, she lived away for a while, and one of the things she used to be telling me is like, she'd be like, you need to tour your own country before you visit anywhere else. So I guess that's all it has always been with me. So like even for now, my son and my husband, they're all, could we go here? Could we go there? And I'm like, have you ever been here in Region 9, or have you ever been there in Region 10? I've been privileged enough with work to be able to go all over in Guyana. But even before getting to EPA, once in a while I used to take a trip here, take a trip there. Even while I was studying at the university, we did quite a few outdoor activities, as in we went to the interior, we spent some time studying things like fungus or animals in general. So all of that, I usually take it as adding to my experience in terms of traveling and experiencing Guyana. And like you rightfully said, it is absolutely breathtaking. If you know me, you know I'm not a water person. I do not like to travel with boats, but I do. And every time I do, the experience that I have is completely different. It's absolutely different. I remember I went to this place called Yarakita. It's Region 1, so you go into, then you have to travel all the way up. And I remember every time the boat turned, I'm like, but when I got there, I'm like, oh wow, this is gorgeous. And then we took a trip to Maruka recently, and my experience from the Pomeroon into the Atlantic and then into Maruka, I would go back.
Yeah.
And I told my husband and my mother-in-law, she usually takes a trip with her friends every year. But I convinced her this year to go to Lethem. However, I'm very sorry, but you know, we'll get that trip done though. But I told her, like, you go to all these other countries, but have you ever visited Lethem? Have you ever, you know, seen the early morning mountain ranges? And you know, you're in Lethem, you see animals from time to time, especially if you're doing the road trip. I'm like, we need to have these experiences. So I encourage all Guyanese, visit your own country before visiting others. Just my piece of advice.
Yeah, and I guess if I can add to that whole conversation, I think I actually originated from Region 7, a place called Cameron. I think I've really been lucky to have been born there. And, you know, because I grew up swimming across rivers or even swimming with otters who would basically, you know, come up. Not that I recommend that because sometimes they can be very dangerous. But I think with that, I think having that privilege of being born there, etc. I think when I migrated to Georgetown, when I even started in tourism, my whole thing was, what's the fuss about? I grew up with mountains. I've seen wildlife. What's so special about it, right? But I think working in tourism, I think it has really helped to enlighten the importance of that, especially with the triple effect with tourism, with a visitor coming here and paying to see that is where it becomes important. So now, having had that experience from a childhood and then being able to travel even more around the country to see more places within Guyana, I then became an ambassador for my country, and I speak very positively about it all the time. So when I think of domestic tourism, I try to use my experience as something that every Guyanese should be able to have. And I know that the private sector has been doing their part in trying to make sure that the tours are affordable, etc. I don't think, I know one of the things in terms of feedback that people say, you know, it's very expensive. And I think I just want to use this opportunity to highlight that we do recognize that. And I do want to also use the opportunity to say it's not a case where the private sector is trying to make a really grand profit. It actually is costly to move around Guyana because we're so large. You look at our country, there isn't a paved road from, you know, to Kaieteur, etc. that makes it easy for people to access. You have to take a plane. It is costly, but the same way I think, you know, I would personally save to go on a vacation overseas, it is something that we would encourage locals to do as well. Our country is beautiful, and the best way that you can become ambassador is by experiencing all the great things. And I think too, because we're so different in our cultures and background, exploring these places, especially the remote locations with indigenous communities, I think you get a better understanding and appreciation for their life and even yours. I think it helps to put things into perspective. But how many people can really say they've gone to, let's say, a place like Saram and able to sit in a canoe and balance it and not turn over, you know? And those are very enriching experiences that people should be able to have with their families. But from a GTA standpoint, we are doing our part with TAG, who is a really great advocate, trying to work with the Ministry of Finance and Guyana Revenue Authority. How can we implement strategies and policies to make it more affordable for Guyanese to travel? We know that transportation is a great part, so whether that is reducing tax on fuel or working with TAG and our private sector to say, hey, these are the areas that you need to invest in infrastructure to make these locations more accessible. I think in understanding the Guyana market, there isn't a large group of Guyanese that will want to go out to see creepy crawlers. I've actually slept in places where I've been guarded by 4 or 5 tarantulas in the night. There aren't a lot of Guyanese that are going to do that. But there are going to be those that want to take that day trip on the Essequibo to see the grandeur size of that river, or to just go and relax somewhere read a book, and just be with their family, or just go to a waterfalls that they can sit and be massaged by, and that's like Marshall Falls that are just up the Kaini River. So the private sector has been looking at packages like that, from a tourism standpoint as well. Looking at the product development side, we're very aware of the domestic market and how important that market is to the development of the sector. So we're now looking at creating new products and experiences that are more accessible, so focusing more on the coast, and not maybe too much inland basically.
Okay, great. So just before we take a break, I just have one question to ask you, which will set the pace for our next discussion.
Sure.
Some persons usually kind of have a mix-up with regards to what ecotourism is and what sustainable tourism is.
Okay.
So could we clear that up with them?
Yeah, I think to put it as simple as possible, for everyone to understand, I think the main difference is ecotourism is mainly focused on conservation of biodiversity and educating the travelers, whereas sustainable travel looks at minimizing the negative impact of travel on the environment and the places that they visit, and at the same time look at maximizing the outcomes and benefits for the local community, basically. I think that's really the difference. Anything else?
Yeah. If I can add just
Sure.
quickly before you take a break, I think so. Guyana really has both, and because they are so interlinked, sustainable tourism and ecotourism. I believe if based on the geography of Guyana, if I can explain it in that way, so you can the ecotourism products in Guyana is really in the interior, in the remote areas. And so people will come because in ecotourism they want to be able to come and see and experience what is naturally what is naturally there. So that is ecotourism for you. So it's really is having this natural product that is created by nature, that is there, so the people come and have this wonderful ecotourism experience with, with the abundance of wildlife, the whole biodiversity and the ecosystem that exists, the live ecosystem, and that is what's so attractive about our ecotourism product, because you're able to go and then you can go boarding, you go and you can be able to see this amount of, and the key thing is the diversity of species that you can see in one trip. This is leaving out all of the natural beauty, the mountain range and everything else that you get, the beautiful rivers and all of that. So we have so much to offer, and I believe that is why one of the draw cards, why last year we were given the title of the #1 ecotourism destination. And one other point I want to make as well on this is that you see with ecotourism, it really ties in, and it helps the villages and the villagers, the locals that are there. And so one of the benefits that we would have seen is that it keeps the entire family together. So the fathers now don't have to go out into mining and into forestry. That entire family, so there's a social aspect to it as well. And so this is why it is so unique. It is so it has that triple bottom line, as I would have said. But it really the benefits, where we want the benefits to be, is where it's going. And so this is what is special about Guyana's tourism industry, especially as an ecotourism destination. But if you were to look as well at as being sustainable, Georgetown can be described as a sustainable area, although it doesn't have all this huge amount of natural beauty. If you were to look at it, compare it with the interior. And so how can we be sustainable? We can be sustainable in how we deal with our waste. Energy, we have renewable energy. And so what we try to do is ensure that we operate our businesses to almost mirror an ecosystem where everything it goes around. So if we are able to do that, then Guyana can become such an attractive place for people, especially in these times. where people are looking at low impact travel and be able to come to a place that they will know that they'll take care of the environment and take care of them and the safety, and the benefits goes to the people who you really want it to get to.
Most definitely. So there you have it, Guyana. That's really a big link between ecotourism and biodiversity. So just keep in mind that biodiversity is not just plants and animals, but it's also how we all interact with each other. So it doesn't talk about, going into the interior, but like Mitra did, he made reference to us being right here in central Georgetown, interacting with each other every day and literally just managing what we do and managing it in a more sustainable and conservative manner. And on that note, we'll take a short break and be right back.
Gosh, morning, Miss Cheryl. I'm late for work.
I noticed the other day y'all had a big campaign with them police officers, so shutting down them people barbecue, wedding, dance. Man, how y'all expect these people to make money and survive?
Oh, Miss Cheryl, that is far from the truth. The EPA and the Guyana Police Force are actually working together to ensure that persons who conduct certain businesses and activities are authorized. We've tried to allow them to adhere to the noise regulations.
Well, there's gonna be a new law. What law is this?
These laws were always in place. It's now that we're getting all these complaints at the agency, we are trying to enforce them. The Environmental Protection Act has been in place since 1996, and it states that persons and businesses must apply for environmental authorization before operating a sound-making device.
Well, girl, I never know this thing is part of the law.
So if you're keeping a barbecue or an open-air function, like a wedding or a concert, especially in your community, right, and you're playing a music system, you have to apply for a short-term noise permit. And for persons that operate in a business and you got generators and stuff, you have to apply for a long-term permit. And that is applicable to bars and hotspots and clubs also.
Well, now that you explain it, I understand it. It's unfair to the elderly, sick people, and even them little children.
That is correct. According to the World Health Organization, loud noise can cause stress, sleep deprivation, and hearing impairment. And I'm sure you wouldn't want that.
Oh, now I understand. Thank you for explaining it, Miss Sonia.
For more information, you can contact the EPA at 225-5471 or visit our office at Ganges Street, North Sophia, Georgetown.
At the Environmental Protection Agency, we believe that the environment is everybody's business. We can start caring for our planet by becoming more environmentally friendly in our everyday actions. Here's what you can do: dispose of waste in a garbage bin, clean our drains, yards, and carpets regularly, take a reusable shopping bag to the market, support local butchers and farmers to reduce packaged waste, plant a kitchen garden, trees and flowers, compost your organic waste, conserve water and electricity, carry a reusable water bottle. These little acts are good for your health and that of the environment. Remember, healthy people work better and achieve more, and together, small actions make a big difference. For further information on how you can help, please contact the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, Ganges Street, Sophia, or telephone us at 225-5467. You can also visit our website, epagana.org, or our Facebook and Instagram pages.
Welcome back, Guyana. Again, I am your moderator, LaDonna Kisoon, and you have been watching The Environment Matters. And today we have Miss Carla James from the Guyana Tourism Authority and Mr. Mitra Ramkumar from TAG. It's so long, I keep saying I'm going to mess this up. If you do not know what TAG is, it is Tourism Hospitality Association of Guyana. So yes, and we've been talking about tourism and biodiversity, and just before we took the break, we were talking about what sustainable tourism is and what ecotourism is. And we've really placed emphasis on biodiversity having a lot to do with our ecotourism and not taken away from sustainable tourism in general. So I'd like to put both of you on the spot and ask you what we as Guyanese, or we as, just a normal average person, how can we help with ecotourism? So Carla?
Well, I think first off, in promoting what's unique, the things that you do on a daily basis. With technology now taking over our lives, I think the best thing we can do is embrace that and put it to do something positive for our country. Just the same way, I think there are a lot of journalists out there, there are a lot of travel marketers out there taking a picture of something as simple as having a fresh coconut water and sharing that with your family and friends, and just sharing positive stories around that. And of course, I think trying to keep, in terms of speaking positive again, learning more about your country so that you can have those conversations. I think with COVID now, we're all at home. People are reading a lot more things online and making more time to speak to each other. Why not have those conversations about Guyana and its ecotourism and sustainable tourism products? The other thing, and the big one, is let's do our part to keep our environment crystal clean, green, and pristine. Don't litter, and I think too, in terms of protecting the environment and even the wildlife, once you see something that's not supposed to be happening, report it to the authorities so it can be dealt with. So we have a great responsibility to our country, and I think that's the way we can do it.
Most definitely. Mitra?
Yes, if I can break it up again in the two areas where we have the ecotourism and the sustainable tourism, and so the ecotourism area, and this has come back to us a few times, and it really I would have explained earlier, when people when they go out on any one of these trips, whether it be a boarding trip, a fishing trip, or just to spot wildlife, or just to relax in the river or go on a hammock, they always come back in awe. Or if they, I didn't mention the Kaichur Falls yet. They're out of awe when they go to Kaichur. And so, but imagine you have that, and then at the end of it or in the middle of it, that you find a little pocket of garbage or some plastic bottles in the streams or in the river, or it takes away totally from that experience that they would have had, and that image that the GTA would have painted in all of the promotional material. And so what it does, it almost puts us at a disadvantage to say that we are doing false marketing, in that we are saying that Guyana is this sustainable destination, we're the #1 ecotourism destination, and we're not living up to it. So it really, and the responsibility, it's not only us, it's not only the businesses and the GTA, it's on every Guyanese, it's on every single person that lives in a village, that lives in a community, for them to ensure that the environment is kept clean. And so you might be thinking, oh, well, we don't get a lot of tourists, but wouldn't you want to keep the environment clean for yourself and your family? The answer is yes, because we see when it gets into the river, it not only pollutes the site of it, it now, the marine, it affects the marine life. That brings me to what happens in Georgetown here. If you go to the seawall, for example, and you see that amount of garbage, sometimes a lot of it is washed up on the shores, because no matter where you dump it along the coast, it washes up back, and on that trail it destroys the marine life, and it becomes so unsightly, and so it puts us at a lot of disadvantage. Sometimes when we are doing city tour, we have to navigate to ensure that we don't take the visitors into places where you have a garbage pile up. Why should we have to do that? People want to, when people come to a town, I mean, if I am to go to a city, I would want to come out and walk. And so the same thing people want when they get here. They don't want to be always guided around. They want to be able to have that experience the Guyanese way. And so we really need to take that responsibility seriously. And if I can say at this point that I can't wait for the ban on single-use plastics because a lot of these things that I talk about that you see is the single-use plastics. So this conversation is not on a total plastic ban. This is single-use plastic, something that you will use sometimes for seconds, and then it stays in the environment for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
You know, so we really need to take this, and we need to also understand that when we say, even if we throw it in a bin, it has to go to a place. So even if you're saying it's now going to a dump site, that dump site is a place. And I can tell you, up to yesterday, I was looking at I was on the roof actually, and I look across and I'm wondering, what is this? Why is this area so high? Then I realized it is the Eccles dump site. So you can imagine the amount of waste that is going in there. So it goes to a place, and so if we continue to have this amount of solid waste that it doesn't go back into the ecosystem, then you know what's going to happen. It's going to destroy the environment. It's going to destroy all of us and our children. And I've made the point already that one of the things that a lot of people focus on is, for the children, is the best electronics, maybe a fancy vehicle, and there's less focus on giving them clean air and a clean environment. And I believe this is where this is the most important gift that you can give to your child.
Most definitely, yes. And just to touch on a bit of what you said, so with regards to, you know, the plastic ban and the landfill, we've made mention of this, but daily 7,000 tons of the waste that goes to the dump site are plastics. 7,000 tons daily. So
you see why I'm seeing the bill up there.
yeah, I guess. I guess, and
it's a lot.
you know, the fact that people are home now, and I'm of the opinion that we're generating more waste now, given the fact that we're home. Yeah, I see the figures actually doubling going forward. And thanks for touching on that, Mitra. So one of the questions I wanted to ask, or for, you know, our listeners, for us to place a little bit of focus on how pollution has negatively affected the tourism sector, not just plastic pollution, but pollution in general. I guess we could start with you, Mitra.
Yeah, you see, especially now, if I have to put it into the context of what's happening now, whenever travel reopens, we need to now instill confidence in people that Guyana is a safe place, and sanitation is going to be a huge part of being safe. So if they are to come to the destination and then it is not clean, it means it's not in any way sanitized and healthy. And so when we talk about clean, we are also talking about healthy. And the beauty about Guyana is, for me, for example, if I'm to take a walk, even if you go to up on the highway, from the time you get there or you enter a trail, the air somehow that you breathe is cleaner, is fresher. And so we have this naturally. People will come for it. One of the trends before COVID that you were seeing, and it's actually going to be, that trend is going to be climbing now, that people are now looking to reconnect to nature. And so this is where Guyana stands out. And they want demand for authenticity. You know, we are an authentic destination. You go and have, you know, authentic experience, like swimming in the river, you know,
with
living the Amerindian way. You know, people or have cassava bread, you know, and then you have the brilliant Chinese food, you know, you have the cook up rice, you know, and you have some dal puri. You can have all of this in one destination, right? So while it's challenging, I believe we need to do it. We need to look at it that we're doing it for ourselves. We're not just doing this for people, for visitors, to say, doing it for foreigners. We need to do it for ourselves. We could start on that premise. But when people come, and if they see, if someone comes to your home and they see it's filthy, what do they think about you? And so you will not be able to get any kind of respect from people if from the time they hit the airport and they're driving down, they see garbage pile up and they see people throwing stuff out the window. It's sad, and it takes a whole lot away from the image that we are trying to create and the destination that we all want, the Guyana that we all want to see and to live, and for our children to live in.
Yeah, and I know things like that, persons will definitely not want to recommend anybody else to visit, especially if you're coming to a place that all you could see from the time you leave the airport is garbage.
No.
That's so true.
No.
So Carla, do you have anything to add with regards to our challenges?
I do. I think plastic pollution in itself has really affected the way we live our lives. I think, first off, I think Guyanese, I think we can say we do have a sustainable way of life. I think just using the indigenous peoples as an example, they eat out of, for example, calabash, something that, you wash, you use, reuse it, etc. What we find now is the modern habits of convenience, picking up a quick bottle of water and using it and then discarding it, is now entering our communities in a very great way. And like Mitra said, is that all of that solid waste now needs to go somewhere. So when our indigenous communities were places that didn't have that kind of pollution years ago, that's now something that they have to deal with. And especially for those that are involved in tourism, it does not paint the best picture as a sustainable tourism destination. The good thing is, I think we are now starting to have that conversation at the national level. And I know now, even before COVID, businesses were looking at ways in which that they can improve their sustainable policies within their companies, looking at how to reduce electricity usage or reduce wastage of water. Changing our policies with even these single-use plastics. Some companies were already switching to the aluminum branded bottles, which goes as an added value. So you encourage your visitors coming here, if you have a bottle, walk with it so it can be refilled. That way reduce the impact on the environment. And I think too, that goes a very long way in the conversations and relationships that you build with your visitors, because then they say, I will choose to go with that company. Why? Because they're thinking about the environment. They're thinking about the people. And it's for that reason they will choose you. It may cost a little more, but I think they will feel that by contributing to your business or your product and experience, that they're doing their part in a way to support conservation, preservation, and solid waste management in a sense. So that is great that is happening, and I think GTA as well, we have recently developed sort of a toolkit to kind of help people or businesses develop their own policies, because many of them do need the help to put those documents together and to kind of create a simple action plan within their companies as to how to address those areas. So we've developed a simple toolkit to kind of help them along that path. And going forward, again, I think speaking about enforcement, etc., we as agencies with that enforcement ability like the EPA and the GTA, through our licensing system, we've now moved to integrating sustainable practices as a way to inspect and evaluate your business to see if you are doing what you need to do to protect the environment and health and safety of the guest that's coming to your place.
Most definitely. And let's just touch a little bit on the ban. So come next year, the government, come next year, we're going to be banning the use of single-use plastics in Guyana. Those items include plastic bags, plastic straws, plastic utensils, and plastic cups, plates, and plastic food containers. And on that note, just to remind viewers, we've been talking a lot about biodiversity and nature. So May, we would have celebrated Biodiversity Month under the theme Nature is our solution, and I need you to remember that. But one thing we have coming up in June, on June 5th, we will be celebrating World Environment Day, and that theme is also biodiversity. So I want to just encourage you to take this time to reflect and to make an oath not only to the environment but to yourself, to be an advocate, to continue, conservation and sustainable management, not only within your homes but within your place of work. And on that note, I also want to encourage you to go on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram. Check us out on our website, that's www.epaguyana.org. And also to just remind you of our new complaints hotline that is set up. The telephone number is 225-5472. That's 225-5472, extension 2309. Feel free to call and leave your complaint at any point in time. Do visit our offices, as it is, and given COVID, we have specific working days, but you can call just to ensure. We have offices in Georgetown at Ganges Street, Sophia, Wimberbies, and also in Mackenzie, Linden. Thank you to Carla and Mitra for being here with me today. And thank you to you, our listeners. Please remember to be safe and stay healthy. Until next time, this has been The Environment Matters.